Fellows, welcome back to the More Than Average Men podcast. I am your host, Michael Benton, and you are listening or watching to episode 6. All right, we're at it again, man. Welcome back. If you're new to myself or the podcast, welcome. If you've already been tapping in with me, as you know, thank you so much for continuing on the journey with myself. And so I'm really excited to be talking to you guys again, man, and really just kind of seeing if I can put some ideas in your heads, right? Some maybe a different perspective of what you've been accustomed to that will gradually get you guys to create the change that you want in your life. And so today's episode, I wanted to focus more on the sacrifices that, some of us need to make, or if not all of us need to make in some area of our life in which we need to kind of get rid of some things in order to grow in other areas and do the things that we want to do and become the people that we want to become. And I think that the being able to sacrifice certain things is truly hard for a lot of people. I know there were certain areas in my life in which it was hard to let go of certain things. But as you progress in your self-development or whatever it is that you want to to change about yourself or for yourself, you're going to come to realize that there are certain things that need to fall off, right? And so we're going to touch on that. I think probably the most appropriate place to start is really with the definition of sacrifice, right? And I found this actually pretty interesting because there was a couple of words in there that I want to touch on that I think that can be missed. So according to the Google definition of sacrifice is the surrender or destruction of something prized or desirable for the sake of something considered as having a higher or more pressing claim. And I thought that was very interesting because there was two words that peeked out at me that I want to talk to you guys about first, and it was prized and desirable. And once I read that kind of got me thinking, like, what do I find or what do you find prized or desirable that you're unwilling or unwanting to detach yourself from? So if you look at the things that you may need to sacrifice in your life in order to get to point B or wherever it is that you're trying to get to, what is it about those things that you just aren't willing to let go, or it just makes it so hard for you to let go? And I think that's a damn good question that we all need to ask ourselves, because there are a lot of the things that we are attached to, whether it was just something that we've, again, been accustomed to because we've done it for so long, or it gives us a certain sense of a feeling or an emotion that we feel like we have to have, or so I'm just very curious. I want you guys to really ask yourself that question: what it is that you guys are holding on to. Because this is where like your change starts. It starts from being a conscious being. You guys have heard me use that terminology or that concept previously, and you're going to continue to hear me say that. But really, a conscious being is another way of saying it. Is just self-aware. Like, once we kind of identify or are able to identify our internal surroundings as well as our external surroundings, what's going on around us, what are we thinking internally, what are our feelings, what are our emotions. Once we're able to start really becoming aware of those things, that's where the change happens, man. Like, that's because you know what you need to work on, what areas you're weak in, what areas you're strong in, what you're susceptible to, right? Like, what changes your mood, your emotions, what you react to, so on and so forth. And so it's very important that we create that self-awareness. We become that conscious being as quickly as we possibly can. Obviously, this is a journey, right? So it's going to take some time, but that should be all of our goals, right? As men, is to be very conscious of who we are as individuals, and be very conscious of our surroundings. That way we are able to react appropriately if necessary. It's funny because I think some of you guys put comfortability ahead of progress and growth, right? Like, I think when you look at the word prize and desirable, and you attach that to whatever it is that you're unwilling to sacrifice or let go, I think one of the things is comfortability, right? We become comfortable in certain areas of our lives, right? We become comfortable, and it's hard for us to fathom to let that go because we have that sense of like the unknown. But before we get to that, I want to share some of my, or at least one of my sacrifices that I've made not too long ago, and I think it'll give you guys a better kind of understanding as to what I'm talking about. So, I personally had to make the sacrifice of my need for connection and love with women in order to obtain or get or have the relationship that I want in the future. And so let me share what I'm talking about. Um, Women are beautiful creatures, right? Like I love a woman's, like everything about them, their physique, their femininity and all that stuff, right? Or femininity. And I, as far as my actions, was chasing, if you will, right? And I was seeking the connection. And so by me seeking the connection and the love, I was attracting the wrong people. I was attracting the wrong women. I was attracting the wrong relationships that inherently is what I want long term. And so I realized that, look, if I'm going to receive the type of woman that I want or the type of relationship that I want in the future, then I have to disconnect or sacrifice the connection and the love from women and start to receive or create that connection and love for myself, within myself. Does that make sense? So, instead of seeking, attention and the connection from others, I had to start seeking that from within myself. And so that led me to things like deleting dating apps, right? Stop like being like really coherent and not being distracted from beautiful women at the gym, right? Or going up and talking to them, or even just introducing myself, right? And really just it led me to just stop engaging with women altogether, like literally. So my big thing now is I just focus on me, bro. I just focus on me, so when I'm at the gym, do I still see beautiful women there? Yeah, of course. Do I talk to them? Nope. Do I pay them any attention? Nope. Do I even give the any inkling that I'm like, that I'm interested or that I think she's beautiful? No. I see you, you see me. I keep it moving. I'm focusing on my workout. I'm focusing on me and kind of creating better health for myself. I'm not focusing on what that person is doing, what they look like, what they're wearing. I don't, you know what I mean? Because it's so, it can be so distracting, but again, it leads you down a road. And in this particular sense, it leads you down a road when it comes to relationships where you're just, you're attracting the wrong things, right? And so I'm trying to create a relationship out of positivity, and I'm trying to create it out of a sense of knowing my worth and what my values and kind of what it is that I'm looking for. And I'm a big believer in spirituality, and so I believe that, listen, the energy that I put out there is the energy that I'm going to get back. And so in due time, the relationship will come, and the right person will come, or so to speak, right? And I'll be able to have that relationship that I want. But so the alternative was to create connection and love with myself. And one of the ways I do that is by doing this, right? By creating this podcast and sharing my experiences and sharing my knowledge and the practices and the successes and the failures that I've had. Is one way that I create a kind of connection with myself, because I love doing this, bro. Like I love just, advising people and helping out and just trying to create better men and just people in general, right? Another way that I connect with myself and love myself is by doing things that I enjoy, right? Hiking and journaling and working out and eating healthy and just, spending time with my son and just those things, right? And so I'm focusing more on that. And I know it sounds kind of backwards, because you're like, well, okay, if you're focusing on yourself, how are you ever going to attract that woman? How are you ever going to attract that relationship? And it's just like, you got to be a firm believer that it's all going to work out. Like it'll just come to you, right? Like it's just going to work out. It's just at some I don't know what point that is. I don't know where that's going to be. I don't know. What I do know is that when I become the person that I want in a relationship, that's when I will receive that person for that relationship, right? Does that make sense? So like, if I want, give you an example. If I want a relationship and I want a woman who can communicate, who is, who can be feminine, right, in her energy, who can, who's kind and thoughtful and all of those things, right? Then I need to be that. I need to be the communicative type, right? I need to be kind and thoughtful and giving and all those things. And when I'm that, then that's what the universe will give me back. So that's one of my sacrifices that I made in the relationship area. But I would tell you fellas, like, listen, just identify in whatever area that you want to identify. Look at what it is that you need to sacrifice, and so we'll get to that later on as to how to do that. But I want you guys to be thinking about that. So I want to read you guys this statistic that I had found, and it says, according to the National Science Foundation, the average person has about 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. 80% of those thoughts are negative, which is crazy. And 95% of those thoughts are repetitive thoughts, meaning you've thought those the day before and the day before that, right? So you know what you have to do, and you know what you want. So the question you should be asking yourself is, what is stopping me from doing it, from having it, from being it? Clearly, that's a loaded question, because the answer could be a million different things, right? It could be the fear of the unknown. And now I'm gonna use the fear of the unknown. I'm gonna have that encompass, right? The fear of failure, the fear of success, just all the fears in one little box. Think of it that way. But the fear of the unknown, right, could be one reason or the reason as to why you're not making the sacrifices that you need to make. Huge one, limiting belief, right? What it is that you believe about yourself and about the world and everything in it could be another reason as to why you are not making the sacrifices that you need to make. Lack of confidence, right? It could be another reason as to why you're not making the changes that you need to make or the sacrifices that you need to make. And I would tell you, with lack of confidence, that's a hard thing to put in place, because if you understand confidence, like, majority of people don't start off with confidence, right? Here's what I tell people. If you want to gain confidence, start with courage first, right? So have the courage to start something, and then the confidence will come, because the confidence comes from you having an experience with that thing, right? So be courageous first, and then your confidence will come. Now, there's one thing that I do want to introduce something to you guys. I want to introduce intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this, but intrinsic motivation is when you engage in something that you enjoy and you get personal satisfaction from it. Okay? You get personal satisfaction from it. Extrinsic motivation is doing something in order to gain external reward, validation, comfort. It could be empathy. It could be connection. It could be all of these different things. And why is that important? Why do you need to know that? Well, it's good to know, or great to know, what's motivating you? What inside you is compelling you to do what you do? Is it external circumstances? Is it things outside? Is it people that you're surrounded with? Is it your family? Is it your friends? Is it your coworkers? Is it your environment? Is it your conditions? Like, what is it that you're like, okay, I do want to do this, or I do want to make this change, but I'm only doing it because I'm trying to get this particular outcome, because these particular people said it, right? Is that what it is? Or do you find yourself where you get motivated intrinsically, inside, internally, right? Through the satisfaction of something that you desire, that you actually enjoy. That's where we need to be harnessing that motivation from, right? That's where we need to be taking our stance from, is the internal motivation of actually you enjoying something and you wanting to make the change, you wanting to achieve whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, right? That's the place that we need to be working from. You're either pulling or you're pushing in life. You're either pulling or you're pushing in life. Here's what I mean. So there's two types of motivation. There's pulling and there's pushing, right? And so when someone is pushing, they're forcing themselves to complete a particular activity or thing in order to accomplish or satisfy a particular need. Okay? When someone is pulling, that is a behavior in which that individual feels drawn towards that thing. I'll give you some examples. Someone who is pulling is a person who is dedicated to their craft or their hobby, right? So you think of things like, an easy example, you think of things like professional sports players. It could be anyone, right? Hockey, baseball, basketball, soccer, any one of them. Those guys pull towards that endeavor. They pull towards that life that they have because they have a enjoyment, right? They have a personal satisfaction from being the best player, right? Or making it to the league, right? Or making X amount of money in that league, or whatever the case may be, right? They have an intrinsic value as to why they're getting the life that they want, because they have an internal motivation to do it. They don't have any outside, there's no outside factor saying, oh, well, you should be a soccer player because your dad was a soccer player, or you should be a lawyer, or you should be a doctor because, your lineage comes from that, right? Or, this or that, right? They don't think that way. They think that, okay, the motivation that I have to get up and go to the gym every morning, to eat healthy, to stay off the snacks, right? And the donuts and stuff, to cut certain people off in my relationships, right? That motivation comes from them because they have an enjoyment or satisfaction from doing that, from wanting to get to where they're trying to get to. An example of someone who's pushing in life, right? Like, again, as I mentioned, this could be, the person who's going to med school because, they have a lot of, there's a lot of pressure in their household for them to be the best that they can be. Or maybe they have, their dad and their grandpa were all doctors in a certain area, right? And so now they feel like this pressure to live up to that, right? That could be an example of someone pushing in life, right? I'll give you a personal example of me pushing in life. I used to sell private health insurance, and I got into the field. I've kind of had a history of being in the insurance world, but I got into this particular field of the healthcare because you can make a crap ton of money, right? You can make a crap ton of money, and I was helping people out, right? And so I grinded for like 2 years of doing this. When I say grind, the particular area in which I was in, you were on a dialer, right? So you were dialing. I was dialing anywhere from 400 to 600 dials a day. So if you've never been on the dialer before, that's basically meaning I was calling 400 to 600 people every day, 6 days a week, right? And I was working off of willpower. At the end of the day, man, I didn't want to. I hated dialing. I was basically like cold calling pretty much. We had leads and stuff, but yeah, man, like I was dialing 600 dials a day, and I didn't want to be doing that. Like that, I was pushing towards a life that I wanted to have, which was, to be financially free and to make money and to do the things, that money gives you the ability to do, right? Travel and to invest in other areas and things of that nature. And I was pushing. I was pushing, forcing my way to this particular lifestyle. And it didn't work out. You know what I mean? Could it have worked out if I would have kept going with willpower? Possibly, but I still would have got to a place, I feel like, or I would have burned out, at some point eventually, which is what I did. I got tired of that running, pushing, and trying to grab something that I wanted so bad. And what I realized is that the thing that I was really going after was just getting further and further and further away from me, right? Which is like, it was frustrating. And so if you feel yourself, really have a conversation with yourself, man, like really dig internally, write stuff down, have, think out loud, whatever you need to do, but have a conversation with yourself, man, and really find out, like, what at this point in your life, are you pushing or are you pulling? And whichever one are you doing? Is that the one that you really want to be doing? Because if it's not, then it's time for you to make a change, bro. You know what I mean? Like there's no, what did they say? There's no time like the present. Make that change. Like if you find yourself where you're just, you have this record of just continuing to push and to push because you're trying to get the perfect relationship. You're trying to get the perfect girl. You're trying to get the perfect job. Or you're just money hungry, which is cool, but you're going after jobs like I was going after jobs that was going to pay me the most amount of money with the least amount of effort, right? I didn't care what the job technically was. As long as it paid good, I was going to do it. And whew, let me tell you, it only lasts for so long. So again, identify if you're pushing or if you're pulling. And, if you are pulling, then that's awesome, man. You're moving towards whatever it is that you're moving towards. You're on the right path. And that's the behavior that you want to be with. So just keep that in mind. Here's one of the things that I say you could do to move towards the things that you need to sacrifice, things that you need to change. And one thing you can do is, I'm a big proponent of lists. I'm a big proponent of writing things down. And I think that creating a list of everything that you want in your life in any area is a great way to start. And it's super easy. So just identify whatever area that is. So if it's the health, if it's wealth, if it's finances, if it's relationships, if it's social, whatever it is, take out a piece of paper and make a list of everything that you want in your life. No roadblocks, just everything that you want, everything that you can possibly think of. And once you have that, I want you to ask yourself, are you willing to give up what you currently have or who you currently are in order to have something better? I'm going to repeat that. So ask yourself, are you willing to give up what you currently have or who you currently are for something better? And if you answer yes to that, then start today, bro. Start right now. Like, again, no time like the present. You want to make a change, don't do it next week. Don't do it. I'll put it off until, I have time. You're never going to have time. You're never going to have time. You need to get going. You need to get started, right? Get that momentum going. So start right away. And if you said no, that's totally fine too. But I will tell you, you must be okay with the results at the end of the day that you gain or get from not being willing to sacrifice certain things to get to where you want to be. It's going to be no one else's fault but your own, right? And again, I'm not coming down on you. I'm just giving you the facts, bro. Like, if you're okay with where you are, then now you don't have to mull over this idea that you have to change or that things need to be better, because you don't want them to, and that's totally fine. That's okay for you. But at least when you identify whether it's a yes or a no for you, you know where you stand, you know where you sit, and you got to be okay with those results on whatever side of the fence that you currently are on. So I think at the end of the day, man, we as men, like I said, we have so many plates that we try to dish out, and we have so many responsibilities and things that we have to do. But we need to identify that there are more than likely a lot of sacrifices that we need to make if you're wanting to move forward and create change in your life and use your full potential and use the time that you have here on this earth, which I'm assuming you want to do that since you're tuning in. But identify those sacrifices, man, and be willing to remove them. And quite frankly, I mean, some of that stuff is going to be quite hard. Again, because a lot of us, just have become accustomed to whatever those, as we identified earlier, whatever those prized or those desirable things are, we've gotten very attached to them. And so it becomes very unfamiliar when those things are not present. But, some of you guys you might have to sacrifice some relationships, bro. You might have to let some of the homies go, right? You might have to let that girl who you think you can possibly change, or you think that she has the ability to change to become the girl that you thought she could be or you want her to be. you might have to let that go in order to get the relationship, to get the person that you actually really want and that you know you can have and that you are worth having, right? And it's just is what it is. I'm starting to understand that there's this concept out there where they say that there's no good and there's no bad. It is what it is. And I haven't fully grasped my head around that yet, but I think I find it very, 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 very interesting. And I bring that up just to say that, life's hard. There's no other way to put it, but life is crazy hard, bro. And not everything's going to be easy. Not everything's going to be, in your favor. And I am starting to believe that it is what it is. And I think more importantly out of that is I have the ability, you have the ability, we all have the ability to make it what it is, make it what we want it to be, right? Regardless of how we feel about it, we have the ability to do something about it. So make the sacrifices, bro. You say you want X, go get it. But in order for you to get it, you're probably going to have to let some things go. You're probably going to have to move on from some things. And it's okay. It's okay because you have intrinsic motivation, right? You have there's an enjoyment within inside you. There's a satisfaction that you get from moving towards whatever it is that you want. So I appreciate you guys for tapping in with me. Again, wherever you're listening to or watching, please subscribe. I can't do this show without your guys' support. I think I'm actually going to start creating, I kind of want to implement a way in which you guys can, maybe you have particular questions about your own situations or own lives. And so if you want me to address a particular question that you may have on one of my episodes, please email me at bentoncoaching@gmail.com. So Benton, BENTON coaching@gmail.com, and I will address your question or your concern or whatever it is that you may have on one of my episodes and get you guys some answers. So with that being said, man, like I said, I appreciate you guys. I look forward to tapping to you on the next episode. Take care of yourself, fellas. Peace out.